Good afternoon and welcome. Welcome indeed, yes, to another edition of the Mark Moses Show podcast, as we're always broadcasting from the Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorney Studios. Take back control of your life. Call them today, 1-800-747-FREE. That's 1-800-747-3733. It's Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Joining me right now there in the Commonwealth of Virginia is one of the baddest men on the planet. He does news, he does sports, he does politics, he does it all for the Augusta Free Press. He is my great friend, Chris Graham. Chris, how you doing today, buddy?
I need you to sell me is what I need. That was pretty good intro.
All right, so I was telling you before we came on, I was in business meetings. I'm walking around different areas. So this is my hair after the Florida heat of 100. Dude, I know you're there in Virginia where it gets hot. Dude, it's about 105 when you're walking around. This is not the time to visit Florida. So I just want you to know that.
I've been down your way in the wintertime, and it's hot. So it's just now the temperatures here are just now what you guys get in like February and March. So I can sympathize with you there.
All right. The best way I can describe if you live in that region where he lives is summers can get to 100 degrees, but then it also can snow there. It's very confusing, but at least you have different seasons. Not like it. We have two seasons. We have scorched earth and rain, and then we have the time when the snowbirds come down. That's what happens.
Sometimes we have all four seasons within a couple of days of each other. I've woken up in March with 75 degrees and then had 6 inches of snow that night.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. All right, let's get to college sports. We got to get to this biggest story. And I feel like with the NBA draft, it kind of got lost in the shuffle here. All right. What is the new thing the NCAA just voted on do you have 5 years of eligibility from when you start? Explain this to me. You're a smarter man than I am.
I'm still like making sure that I'm not wrong on this because it's like, my degree's in constitutional law, and I'm still like, my head's still spinning. From what I gather, going forward, after the semester in which you turn the age of 19, you've got 5 years and you can play 5 years. So basically, they're trying to say you don't need to redshirt guys anymore, because who would willingly give up a year of their 5 years when they could play 5 years? But you don't get a sixth year to play a fifth year. Right now, you get 5 years to play 4. They're going to get rid of red shirts effectively. Wow. And also, they're trying to make it so that these waiver requests that come up, medical, hardship waivers and that kind of thing, are no longer necessary because, look, you got 5 years. You can play 5 years. If you get hurt one of those 5 years, you still got 5. You get a total of 5 years. But it's 5 years after the age of 19. So guys who come over maybe from Europe and start. I mean, Virginia basketball's got a guy like this, Tester Ritter. Was 22 when he started. You can't start at 22 and get 5 years and play until you're like 50. You only get until you're 20, basically your age of 24 a year. So they're trying to put a kibosh on that, and also the kibosh on the need for these, all these lawsuits for guys trying to get a 7th or 8th year. That would go away with this rule.
It reminds me of the Ole Miss quarterback where he went to court. He wants more. And look, I understand because there's so much money in college athletics these players can make now. Hey, I want to keep making this money. But dude, I am in favor of this. 5 years and you're gone. Should we call it the Van Wilder rule? What should we do here after a while? Dude, I went for 5 years. I was on the 5-year plan. I'm not proud of it, but I did it. By the time I got then, I'm like, I got to get the hell out of here. And I feel like, and we saw this in the national title game. Indiana, they had a bunch of guys who are 22, 23. It is an advantage over guys that are 18 or 19. Are you in favor of this new rule then?
I am, because I mean, for a lot of reasons, it will cut down on the number of lawsuits that pop up from guys who want a medical waiver and then they don't get it and then they sue. I mean, the rule will be clear cut. Also, it gives guys who, okay, so there are a lot of guys who are really good college, we'll talk, mainly about men's basketball and football. A lot of guys who are very valuable at the college level who aren't going to play professionally. They might get into a training camp in the NFL. They might end up in the G League or in overseas in basketball, where they don't make hardly any money, but they can make money in college because, there's money there. So, for those guys, it's an opportunity to make an extra year or two of money. It also helps, maybe it makes it a little easier for them to finish their degrees while they're doing this demanding thing of trying to, continue progress towards getting a degree, while also traveling across the country, in some cases the world, to play these sports. So I think it can be a win-win for everybody here.
I like the idea the word redshirt is going to die. That's bizarre to me. We've used that word forever. Ever. He's like, oh, he's a redshirt junior, right? You're like, everyone. And redshirt, what's the idea? Like, especially for football. All right. They're not big enough to play college football. So you redshirt them. They hit the weight room. They go to practice, but they don't play. But no, so that's gone. Is that what you're saying? It's over. No more.
That will go away with this new rule. And for the guys, especially linemen, both sides of the line, offense and defensive line, those guys are not going to. There's a few exceptions, but most of those guys aren't physically equipped to play. But also you've sat in so many press boxes over the years, Mark, that there's always the thing where, especially the power teams play those early season games against 1AA FCS schools or whatever else. And, you can play in football now. You can. The rule was with red shirts, you guys could play 4 games before they could lose that year. And so, then you'd have the question, well, now that a guy got hurt ahead of him, do you put him in for a 5th game and risk wasting that red shirt? Well, there was no more ceremonial burning of the red shirts, as one of my fellow sports writers used to call it. Now it's just, hey, you're a freshman. You're year 1 of your 5, and there's no playing around with. Well, he kind of played in 4.5 games. That last game that he shouldn't have played in. Now I'm suing for a waiver. Should that not count against me? No, it's 5 years.
So I learned in the last week or so. So the idea of red shirt is gone. You also can't be 28 years old. Who was the guy? Was it Chris Winkie? Wasn't he the guy at Florida State won the Heisman Trophy 20? So that's not going to happen anymore, right? And
I saw a report, as this was being discussed, there was another guy who was, coming back from a pro baseball career at the age of like 26 or 27. UVA football had a guy 2 or 3 years ago who had there was some restriction or some rule where he enrolled in the military. He was an ROTC kid, and he enrolled in the military. He was in the military for 10 years. Long story short, there was some weird interpretation of the rule that UVA got through. This kid was a 34-year-old place kicker, and he actually made the team, and he was the kickoff specialist for that team in 2023. No more 34-year-old place kickers. No more 28-year-old quarterbacks. You're between the ages of 18 and 24, basically.
Yeah, because I saw a photo this morning where they're like, let me show you. And I don't know if this is the best example. They're like, Will Anderson, who now plays for the Houston Texans. They're like, hey, he played under Nick Saban at Bama. They showed a photo of him at 18, 19, and then they show him now at 24, 25. Yeah, there's a big difference. A big difference. Now, look, he's a physical freak, Superman type body. Okay, maybe that's not the best example, but yeah, there is a difference in human beings at those different ages.
Well, I remember, a guy named DeAndre Hunter, who's played in the NBA for a few different teams now, I think now he's in Sacramento, played at UVA on the 2019 National Championship team. He showed up his first year at UVA. They actually redshirted him. And even though 2 years later, he was the number 4 pick in the draft, because when he showed up, he was 6'7", like he still is now, but he was about 170 pounds. He had no muscle tone at all. When he left there 3 years later, he had shoulders like a linebacker. And so in a couple of years, and even basketball players, in a couple of years in a strength and conditioning program at the college level, they put on some size, some mass. They get strength. They get faster in just a couple of years. And so you add a couple more years onto that. Yeah, those kids in Indiana, those 23 and 24-year-old grad students playing against, the younger guys on the other side who are 5-star guys, but they're younger. Oh, yeah. Those grown-ass men are going to beat up those little kids no matter how good those little kids are.
All right. I like this. I feel like there's so much chaos in college athletics right now where the average fan and even us as insiders can't keep up with what's going on from day to day. But we learned, all right, you get 5 years, 5. Also, sports betting is wrong, which I'm amazed was even a discussion there for a second. So are we done? Can we stop it with, oh, well, this local judge? No. Is that where we put it down? We put our foot down. You can't gamble. You can't gamble. You can't do a Pete Rose. Is that what this is about?
You can't do a Pete Rose. I mean, but getting the local judges out, the other thing we just talked about, also gets the local judges out because, the UVA quarterback from last year, Chandler Morris, sued in local court trying to get his waiver requests, whatever. I mean, the kid you mentioned at Ole Miss. These local judges, I mean, there was the judge in Alabama who let that guy who played in the G League play for a couple games before another judge said, nah, all these judges who have degrees from, oh, yeah, well, he's trying to get the kid from State U to be able to play, and he's got his law degree from State U. He's not impartial. So, the whole betting thing, though, is it's so weird. The sports – we're tapped into the pro sports leagues. NCAA have tapped into this untold amount of money to be able to make more money for themselves by embracing sports betting. So it's okay for everybody else to do it, but oh yeah, well, it's open to the kids too. And of course, in the case of this guy who's now moving on to the NFL supplemental draft, maybe not.
No, they said no.
They said no. Okay, I missed that. Okay, I missed it.
Yeah, we're not. No, it's fine. You're living an actual life. Okay, this is all crazy talk. I get it. Yeah, they just said no. We're not doing it. So I'm sorry if I cut you off. Keep going.
No. Well, that's even if he had stayed in if he'd been able to go in the supplemental draft. I don't know that the kid was going to be a.
No,
I wouldn't take a rider. It's not like he's the level of the reason he was coming back for a whatever year of college was he wasn't good enough to go in the NFL draft in the first place. So. But the thing is with the betting, all right, it's okay for everybody else to do it, but we don't want the kids doing it. We don't want the college kids doing it. The Sorsby kid wasn't doing it in his own name. He was having friends bet, and then he was just reimbursing them. So, they've opened up the Pandora's box, and there's no closing it. They're not going to just say, all right, well, now that we realize that we not only are we getting the kids to bet on their own games. They're getting death threats if they don't get enough rebounds in a game because some guy bet for them to get 8 rebounds and he only got 6. And they're getting death, or a guy misses a free throw at the end of the game, loses the game, and they get death threats because I bet on the team and you failed and I'm going to kill you now. I mean, we've opened all that up. Oh no, now we don't want the money anymore. No, the money's there. Once you get the money, you're going to keep spending it. So. Oh man, it's there's no fixing this. There's no fixing this.
I got you wound up, didn't I? I got you. You're here. All right, here's my thing. I have no sympathy for anyone who does sports betting. It is called a gamble. Do you understand what a gamble? I told this. So I was talking with Trey Wallace, who's a good friend of mine with Outkick, and he was all over this story. So I told him this point. I want to say it to you. I personally, and I know you're going to roll your eyes, people watching this. I don't sports bet. I don't. There's a part of me I feel bad because I have actual insider information. I have sources. I can get info from teams and all the coaches, all this stuff. So especially like when I cover the NBA, I will not bet on the NBA. No, I will not doing it. And I'm like, no. And when I look at that kid who's going to play Texas Tech, even though he's not going to, you know what? He has a problem. He does. Because look, there is one rule. Do not do this. There are millions of dollars on the line that you could make. Just don't do this one thing. And he continued to do it for 4 straight years with multiple schools. That guy does have a problem. He can't help himself, right? And what boggled my mind was, when I don't understand, I want your thoughts on this. He never played it down for Texas Tech. Never. He never played for them. If he would have played for them for 3 or 4 years and did a lot of good, I could see why the university would defend him. But why are they dying on a sword and destroying all the goodwill they had where they won the Big 12 last year for a guy that's never played for them? That's the part I don't get. Maybe you can explain it to me.
Yeah, I don't get it either. I mean, Brennan Sorsby was a well-regarded recruit off the transfer portal, and they invested. I think I saw a number $4.5 million into his recruitment. But his numbers were fine at Cincinnati. They were pretty good. They weren't great. They weren't, and his skill set, again, not enough to get the NFL to say, forget going back for another year of college, come in the NFL. I mean, so, and the level of guy, he would have sought out and gotten advice on where he would have gone in the draft. He decided not to go in the draft. He was going to get a lot more money to play one more year of college football than he ever would have gotten in the NFL. And so, they're dying on this sword because honestly, at this stage, it's June 24th, where, about a month away or less than a month away from practice starting, about 2 months away from the season starting, and they got a backup quarterback. So that's why you go to the level they've gone to.
You knew what you were signing up for. That's it. You knew what this guy was all about. You don't act like, oh, I can't believe this is happening. No, you knew what this guy's character was. And it's the other, I feel bad saying this. He's a quarterback as well. You have to be a leader out there. And you're doing all these shenanigans. It'd be one thing you're a defensive back, you're wide receiver, right? No. That's why the NFL said no, because I don't think any NFL team would have taken a chance on this guy. There's too much baggage after a while.
The one thing I'll say in their defense, from what you just said about they knew what they were getting, in this era, when you're recruiting the transfer portal versus recruiting high school players, when you're recruiting high school players, you may have first made contact with them when they were freshmen, at the latest when they're sophomores in high school. And by the time they get to college, you've known them for 3 or 4 years. You've had a chance for 3 or 4 years to talk to every teacher they've ever had, their principals, their coaches, their assistant coaches, their youth coaches. I mean, so you have a chance to know that kid real well. When you're recruiting the transfer portal, they put their name in the portal, you call them up. It's speed dating, and that's what when I was we did a story last summer with UVA's general manager at the time, the football general manager. He called it speed dating, and you think of the the movies you've seen where you're sitting across the table from somebody, you get 5 minutes to learn this person's whole life story and whether you want to go on a date with them or not. That's what recruiting the portal is, and so they found out after. I truly believe they would have found out after the fact. Oh my God, we got this kid. He's a really good, talented kid, but also major problems. Now the NFL knows that, and his skill set was already without them knowing that they had determined his skill set was probably late round draft pick or undrafted free agent, and now they know he's late round draft pick, undrafted free agent with that baggage of betting on games. He's never going to play it down in the NFL.
I hope, how do I say this? I don't want anything bad happening to that guy. Like, from the standpoint, you can't just throw people away. You suck, throw them in the garbage. No, but there has to be consequences to these things you did. There has to. That's about being an adult. I know I'm sounding like my dad now. That's what's happening here, right? There is you can't. Everyone knows. See, what's interesting? The younger generation doesn't get this. Because growing up with Pete Rose, and when the day Pete Rose died, I went on the air and said this. Everyone has an emotional reaction to Pete Rose, one way or another, because of the sports betting. Everyone knows you can't gamble on sports if you're going to play. That's the number one rule. So it's funny when this story came out with this Texas Tech quarterback, you're like, yeah, well, he can't play. And I just moved on. And then it was just wild with the judge. Like, oh, no, what? All right. Explain to me what the judge did that day. So, you have cases all day. So what is it? Oh, here's a DUI charge. Here's Grand Theft Auto. Oh, is the quarterback going to play? All right, let's do like what? What are you talking about?
Okay. What would have happened in that case based on because I've sat in courtrooms as a reporter over the years where, you sit there through a lot of those jaywalking and things like that. And then all of a sudden there's this big thing. There would have been legal briefs filed. The judge would have read them in chambers or at home or at the beach or wherever they read them. And they would have heard some oral arguments based on those written files. And so after he, sentenced a couple of guys to fines for the jaywalking, and so it's not just a matter of, all right, I think he should play.
Yeah. Let's go for it. All right.
Yeah. The one guy was I had to slap the one guy with a slap on the wrist on the jaywalking. So I'm gonna let this guy play football next year and balance things out.
I know. Take it. Only in Texas. Maybe that's the best way to put it. All right. That's what it is. So that's over. So now we don't have to worry about Texas Tech moving forward. All right. We don't have to talk about them. All right. Yeah. We're good to go. But I like the NCAA got off their keister and they said, here's what's going to happen. And I've had problems with the NCAA where they're all over the place, but with everything that's happening right now, hey, it's 5 years. You can't sports bet. No more red shirt. Put the foot down. I still think they need a commissioner, but this is what's going to happen because I want you to know this. In Florida, not only college football, high school football is the Wild West right now. Kids can just transfer portal. I mean, we have kids right now in the summer. My buddy Alan Slutterzinski, who covers high school football here, he told me yesterday on the show, you have until the first week of fall camp for high school football where you can transfer in this state.
Gosh.
Good Lord. Dude, when I went to high school, here's how it went down. My parents go, you're going to this school, make it work. And that's where I went for 4 years. And I get it. Some of these kids, they've got to get on the football field. It's their best opportunity to try to get to college, get that NIL money. Maybe one or two of them can get to pro football. I get it. But after a while, I can't live in a society where you have the next generation of people where anything goes rough. Well, I could just transfer portal here. And they've done that from 13, 14 till they're 21. Then what's going to happen when they're 22 years old and they go into the real world? What is going to happen to their brains? That's what I'm confused by in all this.
There was I vaguely remember some details. It's a story from a couple of years ago in Virginia. Now in Virginia, it's not where it is in Florida. You do actually have to live in the district and you can't transfer. There's a much longer period of time where you have to have transferred to the school before you're eligible to play sports. I think it's at least 6 months. So basically a whole semester before you can play for the next school. But there was a school up in, I want to say it was Fairfax County up in Northern Virginia, the biggest county in Virginia by far. It's it's bigger than half the states in the country. It's so big, where a new coach was out recruiting players and he was having them classify themselves as being homeless so that they could then say that they moved into the and they were going and picking them up from different places and bringing them to school. I mean, it was just this really organized thing, and they were beating teams like 73-0 in the second quarter and running up scores on everybody, and other schools were refusing to play them, and this whole big controversy emerged. And finally it got the VHSL, the Virginia High School League, did something about it, but that sounds like that's just standard practice down in Florida and Texas probably too.
See, what's interesting is you have those charter schools like IMG Academy, which you probably heard. There's those that I don't even know if they're a real school. I have to do more research. I don't know what the hell they're doing. But look, you're having kids. Hey, I'll transfer to this public school. I'll go here. There's a part of me I understand. I gotta play. I live once. I have to play. And I have to put myself in the best opportunity to succeed. If my meal ticket is football or basketball, I don't care. I got to make this work. My rule is, I've always said this, I'm not breaking down 8th graders and where they're taking their talents. I don't give a damn. Okay. Mm-hmm. And my rule, I love this whole segment has turned into Mark and Chris on their high horse. Why? We have to talk bad after a while.
We're telling people to get off their lawn, off their lawn, basically. Yeah.
I don't see. Okay. I've always had this rule in my career. If you are under 18, you're a minor. I will never be as critical about you in a sports broadcasting. Like a college player, NFL, that guy's an idiot. He dropped the ball. They're fair game. You know what I mean? But if you're 15 years old and you're playing, I'm not going to go on the air and rip you to pieces. I'm not. But you know what? if you can get NIL, if you now are eligible for NIL money in the state of Florida, which still is not as big as it really hasn't caught on that much. But like, look, if you're eligible to make money and you're transferring and you want to be treated and you're saying you're blessed to get all these offers and you have 50,000 followers, then you are fair game as an athlete. I'm starting to change my tune on how the way I cover high school sports.
I think anybody who gets money, at this stage, if you're getting NIL money, and it's at the top of it, at the top of the game, but and if you're, there's all these schools out there now where you mentioned IMG Academy. I will assume it's a real school, but there are plenty of private schools like Oak Hill Academy always had these really all these alums who played in the NBA. That's a real school. But then all of a sudden, these fly-by-night places where they would call themselves a school, it was pretty much a basketball team who took online classes somewhere, run out of some guy's backyard, and they called that a school, and everybody did that. And there was that famous case of that football team that was playing games on ESPN.
Oh,
remember that?
Yeah, they were completely made up.
Completely made up. Yeah, not even close to Bishop Sycamore. I think is the name of that. Yeah. The name of the school or there's all these shenanigans going on out there in the name of making an extra buck.
All right. Now I'm really going to talk on my high horse, and I appreciate you coming out with me. When I go talk to high school students, I tell them, you have one job, graduate. For the love of God, graduate. And I hope you understand, the minute you get out of here, your school does not care about you anymore. They're like, what are you talking about? I go, you don't understand. They put you in, then they push you out. Because the minute you leave, there's the next batch of kids that are going to show up. And you can't be like, oh, well, I'm 19. I'll go talk to my guidance counselor. No, you're done. They don't care about you anymore. And I know they respect you. My high school respects me, I hope. But like, look, you're done. You got to move on. So if you're going to play football or baseball, all that stuff, please, I beg. This is my mother will be proud of me saying this. Please get your education. 99% of you are not going to play in the NFL. I hope you understand that. You are not.
Yeah.
Most of you are not going to play Division I football. It's not going to be in the cards. I'm sorry to say that. So please, whatever you do, take advantage of them as well. And even if you get to college, you're blessed enough, you get that NIL money. That's still a small window. That'll be gone after a while. Like, then what are you going to do? Then you're 24. What are you doing? That's my thing.
$1 million isn't what $1 million used to be, for example. So
we'll take $1 million. We're on record. We will take the money. Yeah. But like, you're right. You're absolutely right with
that. But you're still working.
I don't like. There's a part of me. All right. I know this is gonna be bad. You're not gonna like this. That Duke quarterback who beat Virginia when they had no business beating Virginia in the ACC title game. All right. Okay. He transfers in. Duke takes a chance on him. They succeed. He's a hero. He won the ACC championship. That's a great thing. And everyone can see you. No, sorry, bro. I got to go to Miami now. What? That's what I don't get. I think it's ridiculous after a while. Come on. Is there any loyalty? Maybe that's the question.
Well, and in Duke's case, they did what I would have had been suggesting you do. They didn't sign him to a 1-year deal. They signed him to a 2-year deal, right? Mm-hmm. So he's, and he broke it. I mean, and I can't believe that, breaking a contract is now legal in this country. I mean, I don't care. He's getting more money from the other school, but I mean, you sign a contract, that's more than just your word. There's, the value of a handshake now is zero. But when you put ink to paper and it says, I'm going to do this for how many ever years, that's what we've been saying. If you commit to the kid longer than a year, then then you're getting away from this Wild West where it's a perpetual 1-year deals. I mean, I read a piece in The Athletic today about Dusty May leaving Michigan for Dallas, the Dallas Mavericks. I don't blame coaches for if the NFL or NBA calls and says, we want you to come work for us instead of working there. Hey, that's a more stable situation. It used to be the pros were the unstable situation, but with your roster changing every year versus, hey, I've got guys signed for 5 years in the NBA. I don't have to worry about that. That's taken care of. the pros are a better job now than college.
In the span of 3 years, he was in the Final Four with Florida Atlantic.
Uh-huh.
Then he wins a title with Michigan, and now he's the coach of the Mavericks in 3 years. That is insane. Insane. But look, give them all the props. So Michigan loses both football and basketball coaches for winning titles, and they leave for the pros, right? Yeah, right. That's what happened. Yeah. Yeah, I think I have to say horrible things now. I think I've said too many positive things about trying to help society. I'm gonna have to go negative. Did you watch the draft last night?
Not much. I have two TVs in my living room. One was on a baseball game with volume, and then I kept the draft. I don't want to hear the draft analysts. I have no respect for that industry. But I was wanting to keep up with it.
No respect. All right, let's get your. All right, what I loved was your honest reaction. So, look, were you watching Lucha Underground, or what is the Mexican wrestling that the WWE now owns? What's this one? AAA. Is that what you were really watching? You could be honest with us.
No, last night. No. Actually, I was watching baseball. The two local teams, the national for us, the Washington Nationals, Baltimore Orioles. One is on the East Coast this week. One's on the West Coast. So I've got two baseball games to watch. Yeah. Okay. Now tonight's a wrestling night. I'll be watching AEW tonight.
Oh, you're going to be watching that. That's what's going to happen. All right. The two guys I want to ask you about, because you watched them play in the ACC. So I want to first ask you about Boozer. And you know what? I put this on Facebook. You probably saw this. It's finally happened, Chris. I'm watching the draft. I am the age of the parents of the draft picks. I am sitting there. I know this has happened to you already. I am now joining the club. I am now the dad of the draft. This has finally happened. Yes. So I saw Carlos Boozer play in the NBA for his whole career. Now his son. I know he was player of the year. Cameron Boozer. Did you like his game when he was playing there at Duke?
If I was drafting first, I would have drafted him. Now, I have to admit that I don't watch Big 12 basketball on any kind of regular basis, so I don't know anything about the kid who went number one. I watch the ACC all the time. Cameron Boozer is going to be a great pro. I like him better than Cooper Flagg, and Cooper Flagg had a pretty good year last year. But what I saw at the college level, I love his game. He is adaptable. He can play in the post and score in the post. He against Virginia in the ACC tournament championship game, he effectively played point forward. And he's a matchup nightmare. He can play. He's a great defensive player. I mean, I love his game, and I think the two teams that didn't pick him, I hope that they end up liking their guys, because I think Cameron Boozer, to me, he was the best player in this draft. I don't even think it was a question.
You're going to see the number one pick, because you're going to watch Washington Wizards games for AJ DeBanza. That's right. He's going there, buddy. And you're going to have Trae Young and injured Anthony Davis. You're going to come on, buddy. Tickets are available.
We got two guys in street clothes and the number one pick.
Dude, I can't stress this enough. So the other day they're like, oh, Trae Young, he's going to opt out of it was guaranteed $30 million. And I'm like, that guy's nuts. Who is going to give him more than $30 million? It appears the Washington Wizards. They gave him like a 4-year deal where he's going to make before taxes like $50+ million a year. What? What are you doing? Dude, we're in the wrong business. The wrong business. He's 5'10". He's been injured the last couple of years. He can't play a lick of defense. First drinks are on Trae Young, buddy. That is insane.
And not only can he on offense where he puts up numbers, you have to play his style, though. It's kind of like when Allen Iverson was in the league.
Yeah.
You have to live with the fact that your point guard is going to never pass the ball. He's going to shoot the ball all the time, and shoot a lot of bad shots, a lot of quick bad shots, and so he can't play defense, and he's also going to set your defense off because he's going to shoot awkward bad shots early in his shot clock. Everything about that is not good.
The other one. So Caleb Wilson goes to my Bulls at 4 at North Carolina. See, now in hindsight, I'm a little confused. So why was Hubert Davis fired then? He loses Caleb Wilson. I get it. They lost to VCU in round 1. It was a tough game. But he recruits top recruits. He lost his best player. What is he supposed to do? And then they bring in the former coach of the Denver Nuggets. In hindsight, Was Hubert Davis getting fired? Was that the right move or not there at UNC?
They wanted to get rid of him. I say they. It seems like the fan base didn't want him around the last couple of years, and so they went 24-9. I want to say, and they did that without Wilson for the last 10 or 12 games. I forget exactly what it was, but his last full game was the game against Duke, where they actually beat Duke and beat him at the buzzer, but beat Duke, and so. They're not 24-9 if he's healthy the rest of the season. They're not going to lose in the first round as a 6th seed if he plays the rest of the season. So that's more of an excuse than a reason. They just wanted to get rid of Hubert Davis, and then they thought they would get Dusty May. They thought they could lure Hurley down there. I mean, they end up with an NBA coach who's only going to be there as long as he can rehabilitate his reputation, have a couple of winning seasons there and then get back in the NBA because he's an NBA coach. And the NBA and college games are very different. So, I didn't get it. I still don't get it. And I don't know that the Michael Malone thing is going to work out too well for them.
I like Hubert Davis was there last night cheering him on. I thought that was pretty cool. Like that was very like adult. I know we're using that word. Like it's very mature and adult. I like that. So
another thing about that firing was Hubert was making like $3 million a year, and they're paying Malone like $9 or $10 million. It's some huge number, and so like when the job first came open, and they're talking about all these guys they're going after. I'm like, but they're only paying Hubert $3 million. They must have no money there. Oh no, they had money. They just didn't want to pay it to Hubert Davis.
They'll pay it to Bill Belichick, and
they'll pay it to NFL and NBA coaches.
It's so crazy, dude. It really is. I liked Acuff. I just want you to know that. I like Acuff from Arkansas. I wanted him, right? And but I don't think the Bulls could give up on Caleb Wilson. I think the comparison is Kevin Garnett. That's what they're going. Hall of Fame guy, Kevin Garnett, MVP, NBA champion. That's a high praise to give to a 19-year-old.
That's a comp that puts some pressure on your shoulders, but I think he'll live up to it. I love Boozer's game. I saw Wilson. I saw his game. I like his game, but they were the 3 and 4 picks. To me, Boozer is such a good player, and he's a generate. To me, maybe I might be wrong on this, but I feel like I like his game better than I like Flag's game. Having seen it in person a couple of times. He's a difference maker out there. Wilson's going to be a guy who's going to put up numbers for a long time in the NBA. So you got a good guy there.
Let's end with this. I wanted to ask you this question because I keep seeing it pop up. So Jalen Brunson, Finals MVP, the man right now in New York. Yeah. Did he have ties to Charlottesville? I'm confused. Okay, so I'm confused. When was he there in Charlottesville?
His father, Rick, who's now, of course, an assistant coach with the Knicks, was an assistant coach at UVA from 2007 to 2009 under Dave Lada. I think that's around the time you were in Charlottesville. So, Rick wasn't an assistant coach. He was technically, I think he was like director of player personnel or something like that. He was on a staff. So he didn't sit on the front row of the bench. He sat on the second row of the bench. But so Jalen then would have been between I think it was 5th grade and 7th grade. Yeah. But during his time, his formative years in basketball, there was even the video that came out right after the finals ended. There was a commercial that I think was a Nike commercial, whatever shoe company he endorses commercial. You see him as a youngster running on a court wearing a Virginia basketball jersey. And that was an outdoor court at Charlottesville High School. Jalen has talked in interviews about how tough his dad was on him, and Rick has talked about that too. Basically, Rick felt like I've got to be hard on him because other coaches will be hard on him, and I want him to learn that coaches are going to be hard on you, and he's going to learn it from me. But it was to a point where Rick's wife, Jalen's mom, said, Rick, I think you're being too hard on the kid. And Jalen's even said, yeah, for years, I hated my dad because he was so hard on me. But now credits that for his his development as a player. But the key part of that started when he was in Charlottesville for those 3 years. So, we stumbled upon that knowledge a few weeks ago, and it's like, that's a pretty cool thing. Like for us that was our local tie here where I write to Jalen Brunson and the Knicks.
That's awesome. I thank you for clarifying that, because I knew I can go to the source. Again, he's listed at 6'1", 6'2".
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like he won Mr. Basketball in Illinois, won a state championship in Illinois. All my cousins went to that high school. It's in a Chicago suburb. Then he goes to Villanova, wins 2 titles, goes to the NBA, wins the title. Again, it's David versus Goliath. It really is. Because you know what I tell people? So they're like, man, how big's that Wembanyama guy? And I'm like, all right, I'm going to tell you a story. I met Ralph Sampson at Ralph Sampson's restaurant in Charlottesville. I don't know if it's still open or not. Maybe you can, I don't know.
It's not now.
Oh, it's not. Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah.
So I met Ralph Sampson, who's probably the same height as Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah.
And I remember, because you've met him. So he's sitting down at a table with his wife. And I went up to Ralph Sampson. I was like, look, Mr. Sampson, I'm a big basketball fan. It is so awesome you're here. Can we get a photo? Like, I really meant it too. Like, I am a huge basketball fan. Could I get a photo? And I'll always remember this, Chris, for the rest of my life. He got up from his seat, and then he just kept going. And he just like you can't. And I show people that photo. I look like Frodo from The Hobbit by it, like, and I'm not, you or me, like you and me are not short.
Right.
I can't, what? How do you guard this guy? So it's David versus Goliath, 6'1" versus 7'4".
People can't, if you've never seen, like, and when I say seen, not like on TV or watching from the stands at a basketball game. If you've never stood beside someone 7'4" or 7'5", Ralph Sampson. I was doing some work with Ralph. He had reached out to me a few years ago. We were doing I was just consulting with him privately, just UVA alum to UVA alum, on some stuff he was trying to do in the media at the time. He was launching a podcast, radio show, and things like that. And he reached out to me through a friend and said, hey, Chris, can you give me some advice? So we had lunch together one day, and he sits down at the table, and he's sitting like so far back because his knees can't go under a table. I mean, a standard human-sized table. So he's so far back from the table, and you realize, man, like you start thinking, like, because when we went into the restaurant, he had a duck under the door. I mean, like the things that people that size, like they can't sleep on a regular size bed. They can't sit at tables. They can't. I mean, I imagine him in a plane. If he's got to fly first class, he can't fly business class or coach. The little things in life.
And there's the thing. He hasn't put his arms up yet or jumped for a rebound. That's it. Look, dude, when I go to Magic Media Day to kick off the season, and I'm interviewing Paulo Banchero and Franz Wagner and Wendell Carter Jr., and they're all 7-footers, my arm starts hurting from holding up the microphone because you're like,
you mentioned that not only did Ralph play at UVA, which is local for me, but he played high school ball local to me too at Harrisonburg High School. That's like the next town up from us. And so he played at all of our local high schools. And I've talked to guys who played against him back in the 70s when he played high school ball. When they were preparing to play Ralph, when they were preparing to play Harrisonburg High School, their coaches would stand with brooms over their heads to simulate how you needed to shoot your jump shot that high over to arc over him. I never played a pickup game with him, but I played pickup games when I was at UVA with members of the basketball team. I would worm my way in as a little 6-foot white guy into these games. And I remember there was a guy who was like 6'10" or 6'11", backup center on the basketball team. And I'm at the foul line with the ball, getting ready to shoot a jump shot. And this guy's under the basket. And I'm thinking, all right, I'll just shoot the little jump shot. He swatted that thing into the next area code from under the basket. Like so appreciate Jalen Brunson. I'm Jalen Brunson's height. Appreciate Jalen Brunson. The fact that, he didn't get all of his shots swatted in the next area code by Wembanyama, because that is not as easy as it looks.
Dude, I love this conversation. I appreciate coming on. You are the man. What's it called? Follow Augusta Free Press for the latest on everything there in Central Virginia, and for being on my show. Have a great day, and I will talk to you later. All right.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks.